If you're running a moving company, you already know the old rules of growth are, well, broken. It seems like just adding more trucks and crews often leads to more headaches, not more profit. Today, we're going to look at a whole new playbook for 2026 and beyond, one that's not just about getting bigger, but about getting a whole lot smarter and, most importantly, more profitable.
So, let's just start with a really honest question. Do you feel like you're in the driver's seat, strategically steering your company's growth? Or does it feel more like you're constantly putting out fires, just buried in paperwork and lurching from one crisis to the next? If that second one hits a little too close to home, you are definitely in the right place.
All right, let's dive into the first big challenge here. The entire landscape for moving companies has changed. The old playbook, the one about just out-hustling everyone else, it's just not cutting it anymore. The strategies that got you to where you are today are not the ones that are going to get you to that next level of real profitability.
And this right here is the absolute key. For years, growth just meant more trucks, more staff, more overhead. But the smartest, most successful movers today are laser-focused on one thing, protecting their margins. They figured out that revenue without profit just creates a bigger, more stressful version of the exact same problem.
This brings us to what I call the operational drain. Think of these as the silent killers of your bottom line. They're all the small, compounding inefficiencies that you might not even see day to day, but trust me, they are systematically eating away at your profits.
Now, just take a look at this data. The gap between the top movers and the industry average is, well, it's staggering. Look at that second row. Respond in less than 5 minutes. The top performers are doing that nearly half the time. Now follow that down to the bottom row. That speed, that one single factor, directly leads to almost $200,000 more in revenue per sales rep every single year. Speed isn't just a nice-to-have, it's literally money in the bank.
A huge part of that operational drain has a name: revenue leakage. And this isn't about losing customers. This is about losing money you've already earned. It's the unbilled service on move day, the quote that was priced wrong, the invoice error that just slips through the cracks. It's money that should be on your bottom line, but instead it just vanishes.
And here's the scale of that leakage we're talking about. Research shows that something as simple as manual data entry errors, typos, can cost you between 2 and 5% of your total profit. For a company doing $1 million in revenue, that's up to $50,000, just gone, vanished into thin air because of preventable mistakes. Seriously, what could you do with that extra cash?
But these operational problems don't just cost you money, do they? They take a serious human toll. The constant pressure, the endless firefighting, it all comes at a steep psychological price for you and your team. And we really need to talk about that.
This statistic is just staggering. When your team is stressed out and burned out, you're not just risking losing your absolute best people, you're also left with a team that is significantly less engaged and less productive. That operational chaos you're feeling, it directly fuels a talent crisis in your company.
And right at the heart of all this stress is a real scientifically recognized condition called decision fatigue. And this isn't just feeling tired. No, this is a measurable decline in your brain's ability to make good choices after a long day of making them. Think of your brain like a muscle. It gets exhausted.
I mean, just think about a typical Tuesday in your business. A customer calls to change their move date. A truck breaks down. You're trying to finalize 3 different quotes, and an employee calls in sick. Every single one of those is a decision. As you can see from this list, high workload, constant interruptions, the moving business is basically a perfect storm for decision fatigue, which, of course, leads to burnout and really costly mistakes.
So the question becomes, how on earth do you break out of this downward spiral? How do you get back control of your operations and, maybe just as importantly, your own well-being?
Well, the answer lies in smart delegation. And I'm not just talking about hiring more people to do more of the same chaotic work. This is about strategically offloading specific, absolutely critical tasks to a specialized resource that can handle them better and faster.
And that specialized resource is a dedicated moving coordination virtual assistant. As you can see, they are trained to handle the most critical, time-sucking tasks. We're talking about that instant lead response we saw was so important, the complex scheduling, all the back-and-forth customer communication, and, this is huge, plugging the very revenue leaks we were just talking about.
Okay, but this isn't just a theory, right? Let's look at some real-world examples of how moving companies are completely turning their businesses around by putting this exact solution into practice.
So our first story comes from Miami.
Here we had a great company, solid reputation, but they were bleeding potential customers. Why? Because their team was just too swamped to respond to new online leads quickly enough. Sound familiar?
Now look at this transformation. It is night and day. Before, it took them an average of 3 hours to get back to a new lead, and they were closing about 18% of them. After they brought in a virtual assistant just for lead management, their response time dropped to under 5 minutes, and their closing rate nearly doubled to 35%.
And the owner just said it perfectly. This wasn't just some small tweak. It fundamentally changed the entire dynamic of their sales process. It actually allowed them to compete and win.
Okay, now let's head over to Chicago. A different problem, but a really similar root cause. Here, the owner himself was the bottleneck. He was spending all his nights and weekends drowning in paperwork, which led to a ton of costly billing errors, and it pushed him right to the edge of total burnout.
And the results here are just as incredible. By delegating all that administrative and coordination work, they slashed their revenue leakage from 4% down to less than 1%. But look at the human impact. The owner got 25 hours of his life back every single week. This quote right here really captures the ultimate goal, doesn't it? It's all about shifting your focus from being trapped in the day-to-day operations to working on your business, strategically leading it forward. It's the difference between just surviving and actually thriving.
So what is your next step? Well, it's about making a conscious decision to make that shift, to move from being the main operator, the one doing all the things, to being the true owner and strategist of your company.
And the path to get there is actually really simple. First, just check out the specialized solutions on the website. Second, book a quick, no-obligation call with the team to see if this is the right fit for your business. And from there, you can start your journey to building a smarter company, one that finally starts serving you instead of the other way around.
Thank you so much for your time. The tools and the strategies to break this cycle of burnout and unlock profitable growth, they exist. They're out there. The only question left is, are you ready to take that first step?